Today we're going to talk about why you should think about really connecting, not just networking, some ways to do it, how to get through on the telephone to virtually anyone in the world that can help you earn more or learn more, and why you should do that. And also an announcement about Ben Franklin's birthday next year. It's a year away now. It'll be his 311th. We're going to talk about a committee that you might want to volunteer for. And finally, an announcement we're going to make tomorrow. We're going to announce an announcement. So next 30 minutes, we're going to try to pack it full. I hope if you're looking for a good job and you want to find it fast, I hope you'll watch. If you know someone like that needs to find a good job fast, I hope you'll forward this along to them and that they would find it helpful. So watch if you want to help for yourself or if you know others who might. This is John Wren. I'm the founder and the current president of the Small Business Chamber of Commerce, Inc. We're a Colorado nonprofit corporation, and we cooperate with local chambers and other groups to try to help them provide more real help to startups and very small businesses. That includes people that are looking for a job, because very often the best way to start a business is to get a job in the direction of your dreams. So we're going to talk about that a bit today and a lot tomorrow. That will be our topic tomorrow, how to find a good job fast. And we'll use this technique that I'm going to talk about today, which is how do you use the telephone to get through to virtually anyone in the world. And also, not just the telephone, but the other tools that are available to us now. I'll share with you some of the successes I've had connecting with people who have really, really been helpful to me. And hopefully, if you like what you see today, if you forward it on especially, but post comments here. If you like the show, also share your experience. You may have some ideas that I don't mention here that would help people. And feel free to link to your URL here. And Small Business Chamber of Commerce, the membership's free. It's open to everyone. We're a virtual group. We have about 8,000 members now. We're coming up on 8,000. We'd love it. All you have to do to join is post an introduction of yourself on our Facebook page, then like the page and share it with your Facebook friends, and start saying you're a member. You're a member of the Small Business Chamber if you say you are. We don't have a decal or a wall plaque yet. Who knows? We might have one coming. And it is free. There's no monetary cost. It's just the time that it takes you to read others' ideas and post comments yourself. We ask you to post once in a while just so we know you're still participating. And that's our Small Business Chamber of Commerce Facebook page. On Facebook, find it at Small Business Chamber divided by periods. Small period, chamber, period, Small Business Chamber, small period, business, period, chamber on Facebook, or tweet us at Idea Cafe. And let's get started. Got a lot to talk about today. And first, how do you get through to anybody in the world, and why should you? You know, one college has a class that students take as a job preparation class, and they're to make a list of the most important people in the world in their particular field, and then go and talk with them. And I heard the professor that is involved with this talk about the program, and it is a fantastic idea. And he talked about the experience of these kids. One of the questions from the audience after his talk is, well, you know, aren't these people so well defended? He said, you'd be surprised. Sometimes these people get these big reputations, and, you know, it's sort of like that Brilliant Mind, the movie that talked about the statistical technique that, you know, nobody goes after the prettiest girl in the room because, you know, you have better luck with the next prettiest. At least that's what this statistician found. And his study revealed that. I think sometimes the same thing's true of people. I've known some fairly influential people who have talked to me about the fact that nobody really calls them. Chancellor Maurice Mitchell at the University of Denver became a friend of mine when I went to graduate school at DU, and I'll tell you a little bit about that tomorrow when I talk about how to find a good job fast. But when I called him up, he agreed to have lunch. And, you know, he told me that he was surprised that not more people did it, that very few take the initiative. And I think that's almost universally true. If you go to the very, very top, those people become more accessible. And sometimes they're the nicest people in the world. That's why they're at the top of their profession. A lot of times they're, and someone especially that is interested in whatever it is they're doing, and you've just been studying that in, as an undergraduate or graduate student, they are interested in meeting with you because you're going to know things that they want to learn from and keep up with. So one way to make a list is figure out who you want to talk with. David Ogilvy, in his book, Confessions of an Advertiser, talks about what he felt like was his secret to success when he opened Ogilvy and Mather, one of the most successful ad agencies in the world, while he still had it. I believe it's owned now by John Wren, a different John Wren. Well, he doesn't own it, but he's president of it. It's part of the big ad agency. It's been rolled up, I believe. I could be wrong about that. But Ogilvy and Mather and David Ogilvy, this Confessions of an Advertiser is a terrific book. If you haven't read it, I really encourage you to pick it up. But one of the things he talks about, David Ogilvy in Confessions of an Advertiser, is that one of the things that he did that he felt like helped make them successful and get off to a good start is when he decided to be in the ad agency business, he made a list of the 5 or 6 clients that he wanted to eventually have. And he looked at that list every day. And eventually they had them. I mean, they got other accounts first, but eventually they got the big accounts he was looking for. Things like Rolls-Royce and Hathaway shirts, the guy that wore the patch over his eye, that was an Ogilvy ad. Alka-Seltzer, if you remember those, that may not have been his. But anyway, he had a successful agency and making that list. Well, making a list, as was done at this college, of the most successful people in your field, the most knowledgeable people in your field, if you're wanting to learn more about the field, and then going and talking with them can be a terrific exercise. But having the list in and of itself can do a lot for you. So make the list first. Now, let's say you're wanting to get a good job fast. We'll talk about this more tomorrow, but make a list of people that might be able to help you do that. So any list you make, it's going to have a good reason for why it is you want to talk to these people. And I think that's one of the keys, is to have a good reason that you want to talk to the people. If you just are making prank calls, I don't think I can help you much. But if you have a good purpose for your, maybe you're selling a product or a service, and you need to get in front of people who will buy your product or service. If you're looking for a job, you're the product, you're the service. So same technique applies in both cases. And you make a list of who the prospects are, and there's all kinds of ways to do that. You can buy a list, you can compile it of your own. All lists are bad. They go bad fairly quickly. You have to maintain them. CRM, customer relationship manager, now is the buzzword. There are computer ways to help you do that. But making a list is very important to the process. Next, I really suggest that you write a script. If you're going to get through to someone, you really have to know what you're doing. And writing it, now it doesn't mean that you just read it. It means that you have, it's sort of like if you do a dance, the foxtrot or the waltz. It's not mechanical if you're a good dancer, but it's still a basic dance. And writing a script is like that. And write down what you're going to say. You may need to be trained in how to use the script so it doesn't sound scripted. Most of us sound like we're just reading. And whenever I hire for telemarketer jobs, I ask people to read me something out of the newspaper. And if it sounds mechanical and this is how they read, then I know there's going to be difficulty on the phone. But if they breathe life into what they're reading, I know they're going to be able to do it for me when they're on the telephone using my script. The other benefit of script, if you're in business, is that if you own a business and you have a script and you've made sure that you know it works, when you hire a person, then you can multiply your efforts by showing that script to the people you hire. Vic Kiosha had a very successful company in Denver called American Office Equipment, AOE. And he sold it out, did very well. He's still around. I've talked to him once or twice, and I need to get him on as a guest on the startup show here. I'm going to start trying to have guests on next week to talk about how they got started. We'll make some other changes I'll talk about with you in just a minute. But Vic Kiosha had what he called the AOE Selling System. And when he hired people, he said if they would do what's in the selling system, they would make X number of dollars. And he guaranteed it. And if they weren't making that much, he didn't want to keep them anyway. So he guaranteed that they would make that much money. And sure enough, they did. And it was scripted telephone calls and face-to-face sales presentations. You know, some people say, oh, if it's scripted, it'll sound mechanical. Well, it doesn't hurt Hollywood actors to have a script. They don't get up there and just talk off the top of their head. And in a selling situation on the telephone, things move very quickly. And if you don't have a script, there's a very good chance you're just not going to be successful. And one thing that's especially important to scripts is your opening with the secretary that you finally get through to. If you're calling important people, very generally, they've got someone that screens the calls. And so Shirley comes on or Joe comes on, Mr. So-and-so's office, how may I help you? And most people just stumble through and sound like an idiot. I mean, I do that sometimes if I'm not prepared. And I think we've all had that experience that we get to the telephone screener, mentally we know we're not going to get through, but if you would, blah, 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 blah. And we put up these things that are like a neon sign around us that says, in flashing lights, this is not a call to put through. So you need to take down all those signals and keep it simple. The most powerful way to get through on the phone is, first of all, to have the name of who you're calling, the list, and you call Shirley or Joe comes, Mr. Smith's office, how may I help you? Joe Smith, this is John Wren. And it's like, read my lips. Now, what do we know for sure about this person sitting there, answering calls, screening them for Mr. Smith? You know, they're doing something else. And generally, now there are occasionally receptionists that it's just one call after another, but generally they're not the screener. They route the call, then you get to the screener. And the screener generally is not just sitting there taking one call after another. They're doing something else. So they pick up the phone, Mr. Smith's office, this is Shirley, this is Joe, how may I help you? And they're not thinking about you. But when you say the name of who they're working for, and you say it very slow and clearly, and then you say your name very slow and clearly, what does that put up in flashing lights? Well, the first thing is their mind was somewhere else. They're doing something else. They've just said something mechanically. You've responded immediately. Joe Smith, this is John Wren. And they hear the John Wren because Joe Smith kind of caught their attention, John Wren, and you're saying it like, you should know who I am. And they're thinking, oh, is this a customer? Is this a real good friend of Mr.? And so all of a sudden now the flashing lights are saying, you'd better just put this call through. And it very, very frequently happens. Different success rates for different people, but you'll get through a good portion of the time. Now, if you don't get through, you have to immediately switch gears. He's not in now, could I take a message? Now, as far as leaving messages, and especially on voicemail, I recommend that you not leave a message until you've tried 3 times. But you can say, when would be a good time to call back? And they'll usually tell you. But Try that 3 times. If you can't get through, then you're going to have to try to enlist the screener as your ally. And you do that by telling them why Mr. Smith is going to want to talk with you. You have to sell yourself just as you would to Mr. Smith if you got through. So it's a very, very similar thing. Now, Mr. Smith comes on the line, picks up the phone. Smith, Mr. Smith, yes. However they answer the phone, they say something. Now, in this, you don't want to do what you did with the receptionist. In this one, you want to make sure that he starts listening to you. And the most powerful way to focus attention is to say, so he says, yes. You say, Mr. Smith? Now, he didn't say Mr. Smith, so you don't know, and that makes sense. So he says, yes, hello, Mr. Smith? And he'll answer. Now, what's surprising to people is that even if he says Joe Smith, Mr. Smith, however he answers, you want to say, Mr. Smith? Now, the reason you do that is, number one, sometimes it's not Mr. Smith. It may be somebody answering his phone, and what they really mean is Mr. Smith's phone, but they kind of enjoy finding out who Mr. Smith's talking with, or they're really trying to be helpful. But it's not always Mr. Smith, even if they say Mr. Smith. So, Mr. Smith, and that's a question, if it is Mr. Smith, he knows the answer to. And whatever he's doing, because you know the same thing about him that you know about the screener, although even more so. He is not just sitting there waiting for your call to come in. So when the call does come in, his mind is on something else. He's saying mechanically, Joe Smith, and he's not thinking about the call. But when you say, hello, Mr. Smith, he knows the answer to that. He focuses on your call. And to reinforce it, and this is a technique I discovered by tape recording really powerful people on the telephone. And I asked him, why do you do that? And he said, I don't know, but it just seems to make the call go better. And a lot of people won't use this, but it will make the call go better. He says, Mr. Smith? Yeah, this is Mr. Smith. Oh, thank you, Mr. Smith. This is blah, blah, blah. And you say thank you before you say anything else. And I believe the reason the calls go better is it's just a continuation of the focusing process so that you're getting his attention onto the phone call before you even say who you are. Now, all the training literature and everything, it says, look in the mirror, smile, be cheerful. That's exactly the opposite of what you want to do in the front part of this call. Because, hey, Mr. Smith, I am so glad to talk to you. Thank you. It's those signs you put up that flash sales calls, sales calls. So you want to take those down. And instead, Mr. Smith, thank you, Mr. Smith. This is John Wren with your company. And there's some benefit that you offer. Is this a good time, or should we schedule a time for me to call you back? You need to give them that option up front. Because if he's in a conference, there may be 10 people sitting there in the room with him. If you've done it the right way with the screener, that may often happen. And what Smith may tell you is, well, call back Shirley, call back Joe. They'll set a time. And then when you call back Shirley or Joe, and you say, Mr. Smith just told me that he wants you to set a time for me to call, and we'll talk then. They'll set up the appointment for you. And be sure to leave your phone number, because if they need to cancel it or move it, you want to give them that option. It makes it a more solid appointment. You might even give a benefit of why you're calling, and especially if you're referred by someone. I try to never call anyone unless I've been referred. If I have a personal contact. Now, I called the head of the Denver Symphony Orchestra. He was new in the job. I called Chris Phillips. This is John Wren. So-and-so said to call. And this is the person that had referred me. I'll tell you more about that tomorrow when I tell you how to find a good job fast. How I got a job working for the Denver Symphony Orchestra as a marketing director, a job some people work for all their life in 2 days. you know, you can find a good job fast if you really want a job. And yesterday I forwarded on a tweet that Warren Buffett had posted. No, actually it was a video of Warren Buffett talking about the world is just much better off. We're hearing all this alarmist stuff, but really, you know, there are some difficult things in the world, but this is a wonderful world with it. And I forwarded that on. It was a good thing to watch, I thought. And some very negative person says, yeah, good for you. And Warren Buffett, what about the rest of us? You know, I've been unemployed for 2 years. So I tweeted back, you know, call me. I'll help you find a good job fast, and I'll do it for free. And that's one reason I'm going to have the show tomorrow. I'm hoping to talk to him between now and tomorrow, and maybe we can have him a job by then. If you're the one that tweeted, get back to me. I mean, but I think that's why people don't have a job, is just because they sit around negative, criticizing. You do have to sort of decide that you do want a job. I believe that anybody that doesn't have a job doesn't want a job. There is something you can do. I learned that from my professor at the University of Denver. Dr. Foster said there is no such thing as unemployment. If you don't believe that, come and see me right after class and I will put you to work. And he built a house with student labor doing that. He was a terrific, terrific guy. There is always a job. There is somebody that you can do something for. Now, it may not pay what you want. And Dr. Foster would always say that, you know, it may not pay what you want. But it's not going to be something that you're going to do forever. And if you have a job, it'll help you get a better job. And sometimes you have to get a few jobs. And the best way to start a business is get a job in the direction of your dreams. But this skill we've just been talking about is a critical skill. I can't believe we're coming to the end of our half hour together. Well, I want to make a couple of other announcements. And if you want to help with your script, call me. Bounce it off of me. Call me before you call the live person, and I'll help you a little bit. I'm always glad to do that. There's no charge for it. Just give me a call. John Wren, 303-861-1447. That's 303-861-1447. If you need a good job fast, if you've been unemployed, you're discouraged, call me. I believe I can help you. 303-861-1447. Now, before we go today, I also said I'd talk about Ben Franklin's birthday. We're going to form a committee and talk about Ben Franklin's 311th birthday. Just had his 310th just a couple of days ago. It's always the same week as, or, you know, they're a couple of days apart. I believe Martin Luther King is the 18th, is that right? And Benjamin Franklin was the 17th. So they're not a couple, they're right next to each other, if I'm right. Maybe it's the 19th. But at any rate, for a long time, I've had this idea that, you know, that Martin Luther King, that holiday could be made even bigger than it is right now. And I don't think you discontinue anything that's being done. There's a parade here in Denver that ought to continue. Everything that's done around Dr. King ought to continue. But I think to make it even better, that it becomes a, you know, that we have the Hall of Fame here in Denver with the players, the outstanding players for the past Bronco teams, and they install them and they're around the inside of the stadium. Well, I think there should be a Hall of Fame for American heroes. And, you know, we have President's Day. They combined Washington and Lincoln's birthdays, and they celebrate them on President's Day. And that's great. Presidents are wonderful. But there are real heroes in America that I think probably should be celebrated just as much or even more than presidents. One of them is who I think the award should go to next year in celebration of his birthday, 311th birthday of Benjamin Franklin. Next year, we're going to form a committee and see if we can make this into a national celebration. I'd like every neighborhood in America, for sure, across Colorado, every precinct. There's 3,000 political precincts in Colorado. Next year, I'd like to see all 3,000 have a party, some sort of an activity there in their local neighborhood in celebration of Ben Franklin's birthday. And at the same time, talk about our wonderful Colorado caucus. I think it's the best chance the average ordinary person has of serving in elected public office. It's powerful. A Wikipedia listing just went up. Look on Wikipedia for Colorado caucus, or the Colorado Secretary of State's website, which it links to there on Wikipedia. Take a look at it. I've got a website, cocaucus.org. And, you know, Wikipedia, I've never done this before, but I started the entry. It's like a debate that's ongoing. I put up stuff, they take my stuff down, they put up stuff, whoever they are. Well, who they are the caucus killers. There are people that hate the caucus because they know that what I'm saying is true, that it is the very best way for the average ordinary person to serve an elected public office, and they don't want that to happen. They'd like the rich, powerful elite to be in absolute and total control, and so they'd like to get rid of the caucus and make that happen. Well, that's not what's made America great. Edmund Phelps is one of the people that I wanted to get through to, and I did, and he's become a bit of a friend long distance. He's a Nobel Prize winning economist. His most recent book, Mass Flourishing, talks about the fact that we're in sharp decline here in America as far as our workforce is concerned. It used to be almost everybody driving to work is thinking of a better way to do their job. Now most people hate their job. They're not thinking of better. They say, if you want to do it better, send it upstairs to the guys that are earning the big bucks. And that really needs to change. And I think one way to change that is to have people, now in the government especially, because right now if the elite are picking people, spending money, getting them elected, we end up with representatives who are not representing their constituency. They're representing these powerful forces that would like to get rid of the Colorado caucus. And I'd like to see the Colorado caucus celebrated across Colorado, especially in the off year. The caucus is every other year. The caucus is coming up March 1st. And I really urge you to participate this year and volunteer to be on the Ben Franklin Birthday Committee for your neighborhood. And we're going to have some things on the internet to try to help facilitate that. And it's going to be hopefully a reporters network, so that even if you're unaffiliated or you're not registered as a Republican or a Democrat, you go to the caucus and then post what you observe happening there this year. Now, we're going to make an announcement about this tomorrow. We're also going to announce a change as far as this program is concerned. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull this off or not. We're going to try to cut this back to 10 minutes. And I may have a half-hour show once a week, or it may be 10 minutes every day, but Monday through Friday. And we're going to also change the way we're thinking about time, because some of the people that I'm going to be talking with who are going to be sharing their startup experience, we've got some really great people lined up. When I talk to them, I'd like to do the live broadcast at the time that's convenient for them, not at 12:30 Mountain Time, which is convenient here for me. So what we're going to do is to say that we will have a new program on, which you can use as content for your website, your blog, especially if you're a local community newspaper. I'd like to raise the quality of this program to the point that you want to put it on your website or blog. And all I would ask is you have a refer once a week or so to the program on your website. And if you'll do that, I'd love to have you put it up. And you know what, if you put it up and you don't do that, I'm going to be okay with that too. But whatever you want to do for me, I'd be welcome. If you'll let me know in the comments down below that you've done that, I think the people that watch it are going to thank you, but I will too if you'll let me know what you've done by posting a comment here. Well, we're just about out of time. This is John Wren. This is the Startup Show every Monday through Friday on the internet at johnwren.com. There's a link there by 12:30 every day. Tomorrow we'll start our 10-minute version. And tomorrow we're going to be talking about how to find a good job fast. I'm going to share 3 different experiences with you, 3 stories. I'm going to use my Dale Carnegie training and doing a 2-minute talk. You're going to hear 3 of my 2-minute talks tomorrow. And hopefully it will inspire you. If you sent that tweet out to me and Warren Buffett, be sure to watch tomorrow. And remember, this life is very short. Let's go get started. Thanks for watching.